Hey, welcome back, everyone. I know each of you has heard this phrase at some point in your career. Maybe someone said it joking around. Maybe your spouse or family member has mentioned it. Or I'm certain some random civilian has said it to you. Someone has said, "You look mean or intimidating." But here's the other thing that I'm willing to bet on. Most of the time, you weren't trying to be mean or intimidating. You were probably just standing there and you were just being you. The reality is, as veterans and first responders, these careers shape the way you move, the way you look at people, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, even when you're out of uniform. It's not accidental. It's a matter of necessity. You learn to walk into a situation with confidence. You learn to pay attention to everything happening around you. You learn that hesitation can have consequences. And you learn that people often make decisions about you as soon as they see you, often before you even say a word. Those are your survival skills. Problem is that one day you're going to walk into an environment where no one will understand where those behaviors came from. They won't see the years of training, experience, or responsibility. They'll only see what's right in front of them. And sometimes they're going to get it wrong. What feels normal to you can feel disconnected to someone else. What feels like being confident to you can feel confrontational to a coworker. And what you feel is professionalism can come across as cold, impatient, or difficult to approach. You need to understand something that a successful transition demands. Different environments speak different languages. And one of the most powerful languages you'll ever speak is the one you never say out loud. It's your body language. The good news is, this isn't about smiling more or giving up that command presence. It's about learning when to shift gears. It's about learning to recognize the signals you send before you ever say a word, before you ever shake somebody's hand, and before you ever have the chance to tell the story of who you are. However, before we get any further into this, we're going to take a break to acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. As a first responder, control isn't optional. It's how you do your job. But when it comes to buying or refinancing a home, most lenders don't get your world. Police Mortgage does. They specialize in working with first responders, walking you through the process, breaking down your options, and helping you lock in competitive rates without the runaround. Take control of your financial future with people who have your back. Visit policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. But here's the part that's really worth paying attention to. Think about the last time that you walked into a room full of people that you didn't know. Maybe it was a doctor's office. Maybe it was your child's school. Maybe it was a networking event that you should be going to. A church function. Or a birthday party of that new family that you've started hanging out with. I know what you probably did first. And you probably know that you were doing it. And that's what makes this topic so important. Because you were immediately scanning the room. You held off putting yourself in a group of the other people. You paid attention to your surroundings. You covertly listened to a few of the conversations. And basically identified anything that seemed out of place. You probably stood there like a statue. And in your mind, you wanted someone to approach you instead of walking over to introduce yourself. Now, if one or multiple of these hit home, understand that none of those behaviors are wrong. They've most likely served you well for years while you were working. But they do have consequences in different environments. The average civilian isn't reading your body language through the lens of tactical awareness. They're reading it through the lens of comfort. They're asking themselves, do I feel comfortable walking over and talking to that person? And one of the biggest mistakes veterans and first responders make when talking about and preparing for transition is thinking that you need to become softer. Whereas the correct answer is about being more intentional. You have to understand that your capability doesn't disappear because you allow yourself to relax. Your confidence doesn't disappear because your face isn't locked into a neutral expression. And your control or leadership doesn't disappear because you smile first. Those aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that you understand and can adapt to the environment you're operating in. Think about it this way. When you're working, you already change how you communicate depending on who you're dealing with. I'm sure, or at least hope, that you don't speak to a victim the same way you speak to a suspect. You don't talk with the new guy the same way you talk with a superior. You wouldn't explain something to a civilian the same way you explain it to a coworker. In essence, you've already spent your years in service adjusting your communication based on the audience. All this is simply extending that same discipline to your nonverbal communication. Don't forget, your body talks long before your mouth ever gets the chance. And many in the civilian world won't tell you how they interpret your presence. They're going to simply respond to it. They may decide not to ask you a question or even talk to you. They may choose someone else for a project because they believe you won't play well on their team. Or they may assume that you aren't interested in collaborating. They may believe that you're judging them, when in reality, all you're doing is listening and thinking. But those decisions will happen because of perception. And that might be hard to hear because perception doesn't always feel fair. Now, granted, you know what your intentions are, but everyone else only knows your presentation. It's why self-awareness becomes one of the most valuable skills you can develop before transition. Start playing back the comments and feedback that you've received over the years. Have people ever said, "You seem intense," that you look serious, that they weren't sure how you were feeling about the situation because of the look on your face? Maybe you've laughed off those comments or just ignored them. But it's also worth asking yourself, how much of that is your personality and how much of it is your profession? Personality is who you are. Professional conditioning is what you've repeatedly trained yourself to become. And those shouldn't be the same thing. On the other hand, civilian workplaces often reward different first impressions. People build trust through conversations before knowing your competence. They often value you being curious before being absolutely certain. They expect collaboration before taking charge. However, that doesn't make either environment better or worse. It's just that they're different. Preparing for your transition means learning to recognize those differences before they become obstacles. Here's some work that you can do. For the next week, don't try to change anything. Just pay attention to yourself. Try to recognize what your face looks like when you're listening. Whether you always cross your arms while people are talking to you. Or how often you interrupt because in your mind, you've already figured out where the conversation is going. But at the same time, don't judge yourself. Don't try to force a different personality. Just gather the information. You've spent years becoming really good at reading other people. Now turn that observation inward. Because one of the most important environments you'll ever learn to read is understanding the signals that you're sending. And the goal is to know when that version of you is helping and when it may be creating distance from those same people that you're intending to connect with. And as a side note, if you want more on this topic, along with more information on transition planning and preparation, I put out a weekly newsletter. Go check out the link in the show notes to sign up. I know that you're going to get some benefit from it. At this point, I know you're thinking that, damn, this is a lot of effort just to make a better first impression. But it's bigger than that. This isn't just about body language. It's about adaptability. Think back over your career. Every assignment that you've taken, you've needed to learn a new environment. And every one of those changes required you to adjust. Yes, the mission stayed the same, but the expectations, relationships, and methods changed. And because of those changes, you didn't become less capable. You became more versatile. Your transition is no different. The challenge is that most veterans and first responders preparing for transition spend almost all of their time thinking about the tangible things. We update our resumes. We build a LinkedIn profile. We prepare for the interviews. And yes, each of those things are all worthwhile and important. But what about asking yourself, what version of me is going to walk into that interview? Because whether you want to accept it or not, people begin deciding who you are before they ever begin evaluating what you've previously done. And don't act like you don't do the same thing to other people. Hell, you've spent years reading people the exact same way. Within seconds, you've formed your opinions about how nervous they are, their credibility. Are they being deceptive? Their competence. What are their intentions? Those first impressions might not have always been accurate, but they helped you decide how to proceed. Civilian hiring managers, they'll do exactly the same thing. Future coworkers, they're going to do exactly the same thing. And future clients, like the others, they'll do exactly the same thing. The difference is they're going to be using a different set of experiences to interpret what they see. When you walk into that meeting carrying yourself the way you've done throughout your career, they won't have military or first responder experience to help them understand it. They'll simply interpret what they observe. That's why this matters while you still have time to practice. Right now, you're surrounded by people who know you. They understand your profession. They understand why you communicate the way you do. They understand why you have that expression on your face. But when you find yourself outside that bubble, maybe when you're coaching your kids' baseball team, and when you're volunteering at church, maybe when you're out to dinner with your civilian friends, because you do have civilian friends, right? Those moments become your training ground. So start paying attention. Watch how those people interact with each other. Notice how often they smile or nod encouragingly before they talk. Notice how they interrupt less and ask more encouraging questions. And notice how their eye contact communicates interest instead of judgment. This isn't about copying anyone, and you're not fixing something that's broken. You're evaluating whether the tools you've developed are the right tools for the next mission. Every professional has a toolbox. The inexperienced person uses the same tool for every job, whereas the experienced one knows when to reach for a different tool. Your physical presence works the same way. If every interaction begins at 100% intensity, the people around you don't have anywhere to go. They experience the full weight of your presence before they've earned your trust or you've earned theirs. Remember, sometimes influence isn't about entering the room with maximum authority. Sometimes it's about creating enough comfort that other people willingly invite you into the situation. There's a difference between commanding attention and earning trust. One can happen in a moment. The other is built over time. And if your goal after transition is to lead teams, build relationships, grow a business, be a mentor, or simply become someone people enjoy working alongside, trust will almost always carry more weight than intimidation. Now, before you get all up in arms, I'm not saying that means you should become passive or soft. I'm merely saying that you need to become intentional, especially with how you project yourself. So before every interaction, ask yourself, what does this situation or environment require of me? Sometimes the answer will still be your strength and steadiness when things are crazy. Sometimes it'll be your authority and the ability to take charge. Sometimes it'll be your confidence. But most times, it'll be curiosity, patience, compassion, being relaxed, and maybe even smile. Those aren't personality traits. They're skills. And just like every other skill that you've developed throughout your career, they improve with deliberate practice and repetition. And when your transition finally comes, that's not when your first day of beginning to learn how to communicate differently by how you present yourself happens. However, let's take another quick break to acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll close out this episode. When it comes to sunglasses, first responders and military members definitely don't baby them. They get dropped, thrown in a utility pocket, or tossed in gear bags. Frontline Optics was created for that reality. You get premium eye protection without paying designer brand prices for something that won't survive your lifestyle. From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective coatings and water-repellent finish. And here's where Frontline Optics separates themselves from the pack. When life happens and your glasses break, they offer a no-questions-asked replacement program, even for prescription lenses. On top of that, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every purchase goes to support the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping families of those who gave everything. So if you're looking for sunglasses that look good and come from a company that actually understands the job, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines. One of the biggest misconceptions about transition is that it's about changing who you are. It isn't, or at least it shouldn't be. It's about deciding which parts of you need to come forward in different environments. Your career has shaped you in many positive ways. It's taught you discipline when others quit, responsibility when others look for excuses, staying calm when other people panic. Those lessons, they aren't things that you leave behind. They're part of who you've become. But every one of us reaches a point where experience alone isn't enough. Every veteran and first responder who succeeds after hanging up the uniform is the one willing to recognize that what made you successful yesterday may need to be expressed differently tomorrow. It's not a compromise or a lessening of your standards. It's maturity. As you prepare for transition, don't spend all of your time building the technical parts while ignoring the person who's going to walk into the room carrying them. Start paying attention to yourself. Notice how you join in on conversations, what your face says before you ever say a word, and whether people seem comfortable engaging with you or they avoid you. None of that is to become somebody you're not, but it's about understanding the effect you have on the people around you. And here's the part that I hope sticks with you. You've spent a career learning to read other people because the consequences of getting it wrong can be serious. Now is the time to put the effort into reading yourself. Because one day, whether it's next year or 20 years from now, you're going to step into an unfamiliar environment, and nobody will know the rank you held, the operations you conducted, or the sacrifices that you made. They'll only know the person standing in front of them, and they'll be judging you immediately, just like you'll be judging them. And unfortunately, you can't control what people think, just like they can't control your first thoughts. But you can become intentional about what you're communicating before you ever open your mouth. That's about proving one of the greatest strengths you developed during your career isn't your command presence. It's your ability to adapt. And if you can carry that mindset into whatever comes next, you'll discover something that many people never do. The strongest person in the room isn't always the one who takes up the most space. Often, it's the one who knows exactly how much presence that moment actually requires. I appreciate you staying until the end. Staying all the way through the episode helps the engagement ratings. As always, send me your comments. Please be honest with me. Tell me what you like. It shouldn't be hard, but tell me what I'm doing wrong. I can't make any changes unless you tell me what you need. Also, please share the podcast with anyone who you think would benefit from it and enjoy it. And if you're not already, please follow the podcast wherever you're getting this episode. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.